Tim Brando, along with Spencer Tillman from our College Football Today studios, here exclusively for CBSSports.com. Well, it's already become an internet legend. After last Saturday's victory over Texas Tech, Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy unleashed a 3-minute tirade addressing perceived inaccuracies written about one of his players in the Oklahoman.
If you want to go after an athlete, you don't downgrade him because he does everything right and may not play as well on Saturday, and you let us make that decision. That's why I don't read the newspaper, because it's garbage attacking an amateur athlete for doing everything right.
Spencer, on one hand, a coach has the right to protect his players, but at what point does he begin abusing his bully pulpit?
Well, Tim, my mother used to say it's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. And clearly the passion was there. It was orchestrated. It was premeditated. He came out, displayed the piece, and turned it over. And then his voice elevated, almost as if it was rehearsed in practice. And I think the passion that he brought with it certainly made it a difficult thing to swallow.
Now, the message that he was sending about having the players back is certainly understood from a coaching standpoint. I have no doubt that the players in his locker room are going to run through a wall for him, and maybe future players that he recruits will have an understanding of that. Did he at least accomplish that with this tirade? Well,
there are several constituencies he's got to be concerned with, both present and future players that would come there. To know that your head coach has your back is an important thing, but it comes at a tremendous price, Tim, and that's the thing that I think that Mike Gundy failed to realize.
You know, Bobby Reed, let's face it, this was one of the most high-powered offenses coming in. Bowman's a great receiver. They really thought they were going to have a wonderful year. I picked them as a national sleeper, thought they might go into Georgia and win. They've struggled this year, and the thing that I take away from this is, yes, a 40-year-old coach. He's a man, but he's only in his third year as a head coach. He had been an assistant for some time. I've known Mike since the days he was a player. I think his lack of maturation showed up here.
I think you're right, and that's the difficult truth in all this, Tim. I've known Mike for a long time, many, many years, and he came on the heels of my time there at the University of Oklahoma. But one thing I can say, you can never accuse him of not defending his players and not coaching with passion. But here, I think he went over the line in affecting the careers of not only just himself, but that other folks that are on his staff as well. There are other coaches whose destinies are tied to his.
Now, you've probably heard a lot of media reaction to this that's been negative for Gundy, understandably. In fact, I talked with Tony Barnhart, our colleague here on the College Football Today, a frequent contributor to our show, and he said the thing that offended him about this was that there was a lack of understanding on the part of the head coach that there's a differentiation between columnist and reporter. And that's what he failed to realize here.
Well, clearly, a beat reporter is going to talk about the facts more so, and then they're not inclined to interject their personal opinions about it. But a columnist, which he was, they're going to talk about what they feel in many cases, and it may not necessarily jibe with what the coaches feels about the players, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. And she definitely put her feelings forward.
Jenny Carlson, the columnist, has now really kind of tried to low in this conversation, and I think probably the Oklahoman has had something to do with that. But there is a difficult truth here, Spencer. Oftentimes we see on YouTube and we react, maybe sometimes poke fun at what we see on the internet, but there's always an underlying story that usually no one wants to get down to. And the facts of the matter are the Oklahoman is owned by the Gaylord family, who also has the naming rights to Memorial Stadium at Oklahoma. And they, of course, are the big kahuna in that state. For years and years, Oklahoma State has been perceived, at least from the outside in, as the redheaded stepchild in that state. Does that have any bearing at all on the underlying aspects of this story?
It's the unarticulated part of this story that most people really don't grasp. And having played at the University of Oklahoma, you know, I visited many schools, but I didn't visit Oklahoma State. I went to a lot of schools, Alabama, UCLA, USC, and all those schools. But Oklahoma State has always struggled to gain that respect, and it's kind of like that stepchild syndrome. And that's what I think is an underlying
It may not matter to anybody else, but there's always a provincial side to these stories. Well, remember, we'll be with you Saturday afternoons throughout the season on the College Football Today.